guys, welcome to Serious Laughs. This is episode 19, Breaking Free from the Ordinary and Embracing Our Highest Potential. Will you bravely answer the call to live your highest potential?
What role do psychedelic drugs have in therapy and the potential for a fulfilling life?
Hey guys, my name is Molly. I used to deliver singing telegrams back in the day. Fun fact.
Hi, that is a fun fact. I want you to sing for us. I'm Sheri. I'm a soon-to-be empty nester. Embracing that. Welcome, Jeremy. Jeremy Van Wert.
I used to sing in a heavy metal band.
There you go. And you have a story about the Blue Man Group too. There's so much to unpack with you. It's just like where to even begin. But we will begin with an intro.
Yes.
Just sing your praises. So Sheri's going to do that for us. Sheri, take it away, girlfriend.
Guys, we are so lucky to have Jeremy Van Wert here. He is a psychologist, a marriage and family counselor of 15 years, guys, an author. Love his book. There is more. Literally, that's the name of the book, and True for Life. He is a life coach. He's a former CEO and host of the podcast Mindful Mutiny. Please check it out. It's amazing. And he's a psychedelic-assisted therapist. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks a lot. Yeah, I have the ADHD, so I tend to like pile everything into my little suitcase and just carry it around with me.
Figuratively or
no, it's like my wife, she's like, okay, you've done this, and now you want to be a shaman. Like, tell me how this actually fits all in. And I'm like, I can't make it make sense. It's just what I'm interested in this week.
Well, you're so inspiring. And in your book, you take the reader on this journey, guys, that lets us see that the unfolding of you, the becoming of you. And by that, I also mean the unbecoming of you, letting go of what society expected. And we're going to give you a chance to talk about that. But yeah, on paper, you're nothing short of impressive. Like we said, 15 years, licensed marriage and family therapist, certificate in psychedelic therapy from the California Institute of Integral Studies, and a healing mastery certificate from Exponential Intelligence. I could see why your wife feels the way she does. What I'm fascinated by is the story behind these accomplishments. Let's get into that. Your story, which you write so engagingly about in There Is More. Can you take us back to what ignited your mission to help highly motivated people get, quote, unstuck? We hear that all the time. And you use that phrase, how highly motivated people get unstuck and help them reach their goals.
Sure. So my career is one where I graduated from college, and really the only thing out there for me at the time was to continue doing the job that got me through college. And I was an armed security officer in the lobby of a federal building. And so through 20 years of just grabbing the next rung on the ladder and pulling myself up, I went from being a lobby security guard to being the CEO of a nonprofit organization. And my coping strategy, because I have ADHD, was just simply to always keep myself as occupied as I possibly could, always be busy, get a master's degree, work, get another master's degree, work, get a certificate, work. And so what suffered through the last 20 years of my life was the personal side of me, the spiritual side of me, the physical health side of me. I'd stopped working out the way that I did when I was young. And all of a sudden, I'm in this position where I'm a CEO and everybody has to listen to me and everybody has to like my ideas and everything like that. And I was working 80-hour work weeks, completely overbalanced in the professional part of my life. And I just felt like I had to do it or else I wasn't a successful person. And so what I'm doing now is I'm helping people who are high-level professionals, your lawyers, your doctors, your C-level people, be able to balance their life out and stop feeling like they constantly have to achieve. Because at the end of everything, when you've alienated yourself from your friends, from your spouse, from the people in your life, and your life really becomes a series of just grabbing the next rung on the ladder, it's not as fulfilling as one might think that it is. And so really the book There Is More chronicles a lot of the kind of real things that happened in my life along the way that were either great decisions or not so great decisions. And I tried to make it as personal as possible so that the person reading it could relate to just a bunch of different stories that kind of results in, where you are in your midlife.
Mm. And you did that so well. I mean, it just, the Blue Man Group, if you can talk to us about Blue Man and
Sure.
that moment for you. I was reading it and I'm like, no, Jeremy, no.
I know. So when I was younger, I get really fanatical about one thing, and I got really fanatical about drumming. And I was a competitive drummer and ended up being really, really good at the whole thing. And so I auditioned for the Blue Man Group, and it was at a show called NAMM in Southern California, and they were there to find good drummers who could perform. And so I went in and I did my audition, and there was acting involved, and then they wanted you to drum with things that you couldn't necessarily, weren't really good drumsticks. It was like a spoon and a stick. And I could do that really well and make rhythms and stuff. So they called me a month later and asked me if I would come to their Blue Man Group training academy to become a Blue Man. And essentially at the time they were in Las Vegas, they were on Broadway. And here I am at 21 years old, and my deeply religious Mormon father, who is a civil servant, his thing was always, you get a job and you keep a job, and someday you'll have a pension. So I was thinking about throwing it all down and going to New York, where I don't know anybody, to be in Blue Man Group, or staying at San Jose State University. And I just felt in that moment that I needed to listen to my dad. And at this point in my life, I go, what was I thinking? I had this once in a lifetime opportunity to do this really cool thing. And every time for the next 10 years, I drive past a giant billboard for the Blue Man Group and be like, shut up,
Dad.
But really that was the first major point in my life where I refused to answer the call. These calls that we get in our lives that really pull us up into a greater space in our lives. And I thought about that in the years later when, I was doing lobby security, and then I worked for the Social Security Administration for 5 years, and it was misery. Social Security rated as the worst federal agency to work for, tied with the Bureau of Prisons. And I worked for them for 5 years just thinking, okay, I can never do this thing again where I refuse to answer a call that could take me to somewhere really cool. I need to take more chances in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You even equated quitting to the Social Security Administration to sex. The feeling.
It was fantastic.
You write in the book, it was, when I quit, it was like good sex or something like that.
Well, it was like the third time I'd been passed up. And so, this particular day, I put a boom box at the top of my cubicle and I played Take This Job and Shove It for the whole office to enjoy while I was packing my box, and I walked out the back door. It was pretty sweet.
Man. So that was the turning point. That was right there. You heard that call and you got the boom box out. That's fucking great. That's so good. And I've kind of been listening to your podcast leading up to today. And there was one you did with Elizabeth Makepeace. And what I really liked about that was how you talked about in the beginning as a child, she said that she used the term like a sponge. Children, they're learning everything like a sponge, which is true. But then whether or not you know it, you get put into the schools and you get put into these brick and mortar buildings, and then everything becomes this and this and this, and then everything becomes stifled and more stifled and more stifled. And so I feel like so many of us adults are just waiting for that moment where we could just get rid of the noise, like you kind of talk about in using psychedelics, to get rid of the noise so we can just unleash the potential that we had as these little boys and girls. Yeah. And it really broke my heart, Jeremy, to listen to this podcast, because I've got a 7-year-old and I've got a 14-year-old, and I'm like, did I fuck him up? Is there any chance of him? You know what I mean? So can you kind of I'm kind of going off script here because we do have specific questions, but I just was so moved by that podcast. Can you kind of speak to that in terms of what we're like as children and then what happens as we get older?
So we all know that children have imaginary friends. And what it is said is that oftentimes these imaginary friends are actually spirit guides that the children can still see and the children can relate to and speak with, and that are with them because they're aware in a way that as we grow older and we're told that that is imaginary, that's not real, that person's not really there, you begin as a human being to not see that person anymore because you're not opening yourself to invite these people that are around us that are not bodied. So for me, as somebody with ADHD, my mind is constantly rolling. It's constantly thinking. I'm constantly paying attention to a bunch of different things and colors and these different things. In my adult life, I did a psychedelic for the first time in my 30s in a very safe setting. And all of a sudden, those parts of my mind were opened back up again, and I could have peace in my mind. I could see the colors that I could see as a child. And one of the things that they talk about with psychedelic medication, it opens up your mind kind of like a child, because children are always taking in all of this wonderful information and new colors and new things to learn. And you're so open. And they say that you can learn learn multiple languages a whole lot faster when you're a child because your brain is just more open. And we tend to focus more in as we get older. The psychedelic medicine was able to help me open my mind up more, have more peace, be more compassionate, and start developing the senses that we all have in us, where we can start using our intuition to either, are you somebody who has a predilection towards seeing disembodied spirits? Are you somebody who has a predilection towards traveling between dimensions? Are you somebody who has like a natural ability to communicate telepathically with beings that are out there? You can start really developing those skills once you start a real mindfulness journey, and you're using a strong sense of spirituality and mindfulness to develop those, opening up your third eye and developing your spiritual self. So to get back to what you were talking about, children are born with this innate openness, okay, that naturally generally tends to get kind of pushed out. Santa Claus isn't real. The Easter Bunny isn't real. We'd start losing our dreaminess. And the psychedelics have the ability to open so many more of those things back up so that you can have that openness that a child has.
And when you say that openness, that portal opens up for people, is it something that like exercise needs to happen more than once? Or do you feel that time in your 30s when you had that experience trying it, that it could retain that third eye could remain open?
Like anything, things require practice and discipline. And so I had my first experience in my 30s, and then it has become kind of a sacrament for me personally, where I do it in infrequent intervals. If for me, I do an ayahuasca journey one time a year. And so that I get the time to, the word is integrate. Take all of those things where you were vibrating at that very high frequency and apply those things to your life. I'm going to be more empathic. I'm going to have more compassion for myself. I'm going to be less cluttered in my life. And you put those things into action. I'm going to forgive my mom. I'm going to accept my father's religiosity, these kinds of things where you can really integrate those things in your life. And then what do you have to learn next? And not overusing this incredible tool that can help you open yourself up so wonderfully.
Can you share your, and Molly, I know I can ask a lot of questions, but I'm so fascinated. Okay, thank you. Can you share what epiphanies you walked away with, or what those experiences were annually for you on the ayahuasca, and
Sure.
what the differences are. Yeah.
Well, one of them, and ayahuasca really should be practiced in a ceremonial setting with somebody who's been trained in an ancestral lineage, and that's where I did it, and that's where I continued to do it. And one of the things about ayahuasca is that ayahuasca has the spirit of the Pachamama, the earth mother, the spirit mother. And the mother comes and teaches you, and sometimes scares you, sometimes shakes you up, sometimes loves you. And for me, I drank the ayahuasca, sat there for an hour, sober as a judge, drank the ayahuasca again, sat there for an hour, sober as a judge, drank the third ayahuasca. And I told the shaman, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling here, because everybody else is crying and seeing their aliens. And I'm sitting here, I don't know. I could drive a car right now. You need me to go get something? I could get some fried chicken. And so this shaman, she told me to wait on the back deck, and she comes out, and I'm explaining, I'm kind of hoping to see something here, kind of hoping. And then she puts her hand over my heart, and she said, "How long have you been separated from your own mother?" And all of a sudden it just boom, just everything came immediately, because she started saying, if you separate yourself from the divine feminine and you are holding anger or holding feelings about femininity, this medicine is going to not show herself to you. And all of a sudden I'm in this deep trance with numbers floating around me and the sacred geometry that's revealing itself to me, and this wonderful forgiveness for my own mother, and this embrace of the feminine that was holding me like a cocoon, this wonderful sense of forgiveness between the feminine and me. Because we all have things that from our childhood, right? I'm no different than anybody else, but this was something that I was apparently holding on to. And she said, you spend your time so far into your masculine brain. You're always thinking, you're always taking information in, you're always figuring. And I'm very much in it right now as I'm speaking. I know that I am, but to move into that space of feeling and of compassion was a space that I was not accustomed to being in. And so to embrace that, to come back, and then to actually sit down with my mother for the very first time in my life and tell her how much I love her, tell her how much I appreciated her. It shook my mom up, actually. She wasn't ready for that. She accepted it, and she was really appreciative of it, but she was kind of afraid I might have lost my mind. But this is kind of some of the beautiful stuff that you can experience when you do this sort of thing in a proper setting, and in a space where you're not going to end up experiencing something ugly or traumatic or law enforcement or these kinds of things that can really disrupt the healing part of this.
That's why you need a professional, and you needed 3 times.
Well, you take 3 different doses of it in the same sitting.
Oh, okay.
And so I took a dose that would put an elephant in a psychedelic daze, and I was sitting there like, come on, when's it supposed to start?
When's the show begin? Come on, lady.
Come on, let's go. I paid for it.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so you advocate for these psychedelics, and which I love, and I feel like I hadn't heard about it until maybe last year. Of course, I listened to Joe Rogan, and he speaks on it. Now, you specifically in your practice, what are you using for your clients, and what does that look like when people come to you?
Yeah, Molly, the host that's actually named after a psychedelic, didn't know about psychedelics until just a few years ago. So the medicine that is federally legal in the United States is ketamine. And that's something that can be prescribed by a psychiatrist and can be used in a clinical setting. And that's something that I'm permitted to use in the safe setting for people to do. And this is a very fast acting, very quick in and out kind of thing that gives you kind of a soul lifting, if you will. It's a very compassionate, short acting thing so that you can do your ketamine work in the morning and then you can do your routines in the afternoon and so forth. There's other medicine that is still being studied, like MDMA or Molly. And of course, LSD and psilocybin mushrooms are also used in this kind of therapy. And this is something that is much more long acting and can be a deeper experience for people. And so if I'm sitting with a person who is using a psilocybin mushroom, that is a much longer thing that can be anywhere from either 4 to, in some cases, 8 to 10 hours of travel. And so you have to be trained in the ability to help somebody who's in distress, to make sure that they can get to the restroom if they need to, if they're feeling ill, if they're having some vision that is disturbing to them. It's not okay to be really running away from that. You need to be facing, they say, face the monster, climb up the monster, take the monster's face and look through the monster's eyes. What is that monster? Is it old abuse? Is it old things that are bothering you, old pieces of your ego or so forth? And so all of these medicines have their application when properly applied to people and properly administered in a really safe setting.
And do you recommend? Oh, go ahead, Molly.
Nope. You.
We're both fascinated by you.
I know.
Do you recommend ketamine versus the Molly versus, how does that determination come about?
That's a really good question. It's really about what the person is dealing with. And I would say if the person is concerned, if the person's has a lot of foreboding about a psychedelic drug and they're really not sure if they want to do it, but they want to do something that can kind of scratch the surface, I think that a lower dose of ketamine in a safe environment can really help with, oh gosh, that wasn't so bad. I didn't feel out of control. I didn't feel like jumping out a window or something silly like this. And then, MDMA is a longer acting thing, but it's a beautiful experience. It's a loving experience. And that can be a really uplifting thing. These things have to be done by a facilitator that really understands how the medicine works. Ketamine needs to be done 4 to 6 times with integration in between. MDMA is something that will have its own procedures and so forth. And I think that we're going to see these things become more readily used in this, specifically within the Trump administration, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is very much in favor of the promise of these medicines, and they've had such great luck with the combat veteran population.
Yeah, that was one of my questions, is what are the, what are some reasons people are coming in to get treatment? The PTSD was one thing that I've heard about for sure. But is it are people doing this to stop addictions? Are people doing this to, what are some reasons people would do this?
Yes. It's addictions. It's trauma. It's trauma. It's anxiety. It's depression. And there's an application for it with ADHD, like I talked about with myself. And it's about being able to learn to focus yourself. And so there's also the application of, I feel like I just want to access some higher levels of my mind. There's a problem that I'm working on and I'm kind of stuck with the creative solution of it and I don't know what to do with it. And so a medicine like this can help you think at a higher level. There's people who come into this because they've tried everything with their addiction and they're so glued to the addiction that AA hasn't worked and other things haven't worked. And there's an application there. There's people who are in grief and they want to use it in order to access a deeper part of their heart and try to heal some grief. It is just really about understanding more about you, accessing more of the neural pathways in your mind, and being able to connect deeper to the higher spirit of ourselves.
I love this.
Why do you feel, and you may not know the answer to this, Jeremy, but why do you feel, or why do you think, might be a mind answer there, or both, that we're seeing more of these alternative, higher consciousness pathways, no pun intended, to connect with our higher selves?
Because we live in a civilization that has become so tremendously inauthentic. And we've known for a while that things just don't seem right. And we take pills in order to not feel our feelings. We go to work for inordinate amounts of time in our lives, and we've become disconnected from ourselves. Religion has become weaponized against people. And so there is this real thirst for tremendous authenticity. Now, with ADHD, I tend to just say whatever it is that's on my mind. And I remember getting into leadership, and I was a vice president of a social services agency, and we had this CEO that was a bit of a lunatic, and we were needing to redo our logos for this and, kind of do a rebrand of the agency. And so we're all sitting there and it's the whole leadership team, and there's all these logos on the table, and the CEO goes, okay, so which logo does everybody like? And I'm looking there, and my little honest self, I go, oh, number 8. Number 8's awesome. I really like number 8. Nobody else is saying anything. And I'm kind of looking around and like, why doesn't, look, I like number 8. Number 8 looks cool to me. That's my vote. And nobody is saying a single thing. People are going, oh, this is kind of nice. This is kind of nice. Well, the CEO goes, I like number 3. And then all of a sudden the whole room goes, oh yeah, number 3 was the one that I was thinking of. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Number 3 is really the best. And I was like, shit, I didn't understand the assignment. I was supposed to wait and just agree with whatever her crazy ass said. Okay, I get it now. And so there's this kind of sense that our workplaces are really plasticky, especially when they say we're all family here, and then they lay you off the following week. And there's this desire to have a greater sense of connection and a greater sense of actual realness in our lives, that we're not defined by our titles at work, that we're defined by who we actually are deep down on a cosmic level.
That was a mic drop. That's such a great answer. Molly, can you show the quotes that we have?
Yes, I'm going to timestamp that though, because we like good quotes.
Oprah needs to
have you. Love it. Oprah needs to have you. This one, Sheri?
Yeah, I just love all your quotes.
I know. She sent me a whole list of quotes.
I wouldn't stop. I'm like,
it's okay.
I need to put stock in highlighters. Jeremy, could you read that for us?
Yeah, a salary was what an employer pays you to give up on your dreams. And I've started. I'm not sure that this is necessarily an original thought of my own, but I heard something like this, and I was like, I've done this so many times in my life where I had a great idea. I started a business, and then a big company came along and said, "Oh, we'll pay $150,000 to do this," and I go, "Well, shit, that's money right now. Let's go." And then getting into the work and realizing it's unfulfilling. It's the same as all the other work that I've ever done. And I had this great idea that I just kind of gave up on. And, I'd started a blog about men's issues back in 2010. And I started blogging at the time about men and feelings and culture and these kinds of things that's become much, much more developed now than it was back then. But I was kind of at the tip of the spear of this kind of like budding men's movement thing for, mature masculinity and compassionate masculinity and in real masculinity, trying to combat this epidemic of suicide among men, and, particularly among men who have experienced trauma that is either shameful or deeply distressing to them. And a company came along and offered me a big salary, and I took it. And so at this point in my life, in my mid 40s, I've just kind of dedicated myself to, I'm no longer going to just give up on the things that on my actual value because somebody comes along and offers to buy my soul.
Good for you. Do you feel, if any, there was a role in the awakening with the ayahuasca and Molly and all that stuff, that was kind of like the conduit to the awakening, even though the universe kept giving you hints?
Yes, I think it was the surety, the courage that I was able to really attain of my own value, my own sense of will to actually make this happen, to overcome fear. Because when we're talking about money, we're talking about safety. We're talking about health insurance. We're talking about things that we all really would like to have, this safety that we're going to be okay. And when we're talking about going for our dreams, we're talking about major risk, which is something that I've always had a real insecurity about. And that insecurity is, do I believe in myself that much? And the answer for most of my life has been no, I haven't. And, now that I'm doing what I'm doing, it's so much fun, podcasting and the coaching and the working with people with psychedelics and everything. It's wonderful. I get to really watch people transcend. And then I go to get-togethers with old colleagues, and there's such a sense of sadness. There's such a sense of overwhelm. And what they bring to the table is stories of the corporation that they work for that continually lets them down, that doesn't do the right thing, that says one thing and then does another. And I look at that and I go, God, I was a real part of that. I used to defend that kind of thing. And now I don't have to. And I get to build something that's based upon my own values that I believe in. And I get to call the shots in my own world, and nobody can stab me in the back. And nobody can, send me an email that says, as per my last email. And and I get to actually bring the light to the world that I was born to bring. And so that, that the medicine has helped me believe in myself enough and to actually see my value.
Okay. Let me ask you this then, for the people listening who have that corporate job and they can't get out of it for one reason or another. Is there a way, is that where you say, come see me then, let's have an experience together? Or, is there a way for them to have these things you're speaking of and have this joy, but still stay in that job?
Great question.
Yes. So firstly, yes, a lot of people get a lot of safety out of these positions. And of course, if you're in a big law firm, that's a really fantastic thing. You can really help a lot of people, and it's very stressful. Most of my coaching work actually doesn't include a psychedelic. It is, let's build a strategic plan for your life. Let's figure out what your actual stated values are. Let's build a mission statement for you. Let's balance the personal, the professional, the spiritual, and the physical wellness part of you. And so that you're not overbalanced in a specific part of your life, where you're not just simply an 80-hour a work person, 80-hour a week person that is ignoring these other parts of your life, not developing yourself spiritually. If you are really at a place in your life where you're like, I've got kind of 9 years left at my corporate job, and then I get to enjoy this retirement. That's what a lot of people are dealing with. And that's a perfectly fine thing, but you're going to burn out if you're not balanced in these quadrants of your life. If you're not working out every single day, doing something, just walking the dog and getting out there. If you're not eating really good quality food that's nourishing your body and your brain, if you're not eating things that are like leafy greens and things that are good for your body. So yes, there's a lot of work that can be done with people who are starting to burn out, because the memo that I never got was that in a corporate job, people don't give 100%. I didn't know that. I would always give 100%, and everybody else would be giving 60, and I would be like, what the fuck is wrong with all you people? And no, it was my problem.
Right, because you care, because you're authentic. Same.
I didn't understand the assignment.
Yeah.
and a lot of people end up really giving away so much of themselves. And you can do psychedelic work on the side to help you heal from things. You don't have to quit your job to do psychedelics. You can do them at times and take a couple of days to integrate what it is that you learned. There's also a wonderful app that I just learned about called Luminate. And it's an app where it helps you have a semi-psychedelic experience without taking any medication. It has these flashing lights and strobes and music and speaking through that can help you get into a space of deep concentration with your brain working for you, and then kind of come out of it. And so that you're not having to do like some 5-MeO DMT in the parking lot of your corporate job and then walk back in after talking to aliens. You know,
but that sounds like a great fucking movie right there.
Yeah.
Let's start writing it. I love that. And since you're kind of talking about how people who are in those corporate positions, and is that because you talk about your 90-day individual coaching plan, is that the type of people you're working with here, or what is that coaching plan?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of people who are in their mid-career and they're going, God, I'm just starting to burn out. I'm just starting to feel like I'm fraying at the edges, and how am I going to make it the next 9 years doing what I'm doing, or 10 years, or I've lost the meaning of what I thought that it was going to be one thing and it's another. How do I balance my life? And oftentimes what people need, number one, somebody to really hear you out. Somebody that's not related to you, that's not going to tell you, well, you've always said that you're going to do this. Why don't you keep doing it? Because this is what you said you wanted. Because, we change through our lives. The second thing is, it's the accountability, the loving, compassionate accountability to actually get these things done. And if you need to change a goal, we can talk about that and really get the insight in why do you want to change this goal? Or are you kind of roadblocking yourself? Is this an old piece of yourself that keeps coming up because you're scared to go to the next part of yourself? And, maybe the job is fine, but it's things in your personal life that are not fulfilling to you. Maybe, and a lot of men do this. We tend to not get together with our old buddies or new buddies, and it's harder to make friends as we get older. And so, are we getting the kind of stimulation in relationships that we get? And a lot of people think hunting is about killing an animal. Hunting is very much about the camaraderie between men to go out and to sit in a blind and talk to each other and connect with each other, and maybe come back with nothing, but it's that connection that you get. And so friendship is incredibly important. And so balancing one's life can be the ticket really between ultimate burnout and just feeling awful, and getting the things that you want out of life because you can strategically change a few pieces of it.
That's amazing.
How often do you meet with clients in those 90 days when they sign up for your class?
I'm doing weekly. I'm doing weeklies with these people because it's about checking in. I get text from them. I get voice texts from them. I respond. Sometimes people lose their courage to do something and they need a little bit of a midweek pump up. And I'm meeting weekly with these people because it's a tailor-made plan. A lot of these coaching programs, they're a formula. And so they get a group together and they say, do this thing. And you go, it doesn't really fit with me. Well, I've done 15 years of therapy with people. I know how to make a custom plan to actually fit a person. And so that this plan is about you. It's not a plan that you're doing with a bunch of people from, Toronto and New York and Philadelphia and San Francisco. No, it's about you, wherever you're at.
People need to be able to find you. And we have your hashtags here. I want to make sure we promote them. Molly, you want to share them? Do you want me to share them?
Well, they'll definitely be in the show notes for sure.
Mutiny. Mindfulmutiny.com.
Yes.
And Instagram, Mindful Mutiny. Twitter, Jeremy Van Wert. That's W-E as in elephant, R-T, 1. Jeremy Van Wert, 1, the number. You are just lovely. You're just a Renaissance man for the 21st century.
Oh, how nice. I appreciate you saying that.
What I know we'll get you out of here. We could do this for hours, I'm telling you, Jeremy. What do you absolutely just love about what you do?
It is the hearing somebody go, my God, I tried something new, and I'm starting to really awaken this piece of myself that has not believed in myself for so long. I'm finally starting to get it. The sense of somebody really doing the work, feeling supported and getting there. The person who hasn't had the courage to start their own business and is going, I'd really like to do this thing. I'm actually going to do it. Let's file the LLC. Let's move forward on this thing. Let's understand how it can be profitable. And it's people's exuberance when they start to actually realize their own potential and their own power.
That was amazing. That's a wrap, you guys. Remember, when everything's going wrong, it just means you're crafting a great story. Stay tuned for more episodes where we turn life's lemons into laughable tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and keep finding the best in the worst, because life's too ridiculous not to laugh at it.